Well, this is a field day for conspiracy theorists.
This is quite something, isn't it, Patrick? For once, a royal book that lives up to the pre-publication hype. Prince Harry hasn't just blown the doors off Buckingham Palace, he's detonated a huge landmine under it, which is rocking the royal edifice and indeed the British establishment. Well, I've known for some years that Prince Harry has never accepted the authorised version that his mother died in a tragic crash.
Let me just come in there, Michael. Let me just come in there, because that's a really key point. So, as far as you're aware, Prince Harry has never accepted the version of events that his mother was killed by a drink driver in a tragic accident under a bridge in Paris whilst being chased by the Paps. What does he think happened?
Correct. He believes his mother was killed, and indeed that was the verdict of the 11 good and true London men and women who made up the jury at the inquest into Princess Diana's death and Dodi Fayed's death in 2007-8. They were told by the coroner, Lord Thomas Scott Baker, that they couldn't return a verdict of murder, and they brought in the most serious, the most grave verdict they could, which was unlawful killing. Now, they accepted it, as Cameron said, and they put out a statement, and Mr. Mohammed Al Fayed accepted it, but he said at the same time he hoped that in due time new evidence would be adduced, which would lead to the reopening of a proper inquiry into this matter. And I can only say that it would have helped 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 25 years ago, if the royal princes had voiced their misgivings then, because for 10 years, Mohammed Al Fayed, from the death of his son and the beloved friend, Diana, Princess of Wales, for 10 years he was a lonely voice in the wilderness, and he was being attacked on all sides by the media. And only his persistence managed to even get a joint inquest in London, and the jury did their best. But there is no doubt that Harry is right on that. It does need, whether this is the right way to go about it is another thing, Patrick.
Well, I've got to ask, Michael, I've got to ask. So they weren't allowed to return a verdict of murder. They did return a verdict of unlawful killing. What's the implication here, Michael?
Well, they weren't. If you read the judge's summing up, and the judge who was a coroner, and his opening statements, he said, and I was sitting there quite clearly, the verdict of murder is not open to you. You see, there was never an investigation. The French inquiry was into a traffic accident. They were not aware that the princess had predicted her own death in very similar circumstances to the way that it actually happened. Had they known about the Lord Mishcon note, the note her solicitor made, and the Burrell note, the note in her own handwriting where she predicted her death in a car crash, had those notes been sent to the French inquiry, they wouldn't have investigated it as a traffic accident. They'd have started looking at it as a crime scene. And Prince Harry is wrong about a lot of things, and we could list them. And I think he's going about this the wrong way. But he's not wrong that there was never a thoroughgoing inquiry. What the establishment wanted was to hush it up as much as possible. I sat there for 6 months listening to the inquests, and there was every impetus on the jury to bring in the accidental death verdict. But they refused to do so because they heard everything.